to be taken care of today. I am sitting in for the chairman who is not able to make it. Roll call.
Supervisor Conover.
Here.
Supervisor Leggett.
Here.
Supervisor Diamond.
Here.
Supervisor McDevitt.
Here.
Supervisor Bramer.
Yes, here.
Supervisor Bruno.
Here.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Here.
Supervisor Frazier. Here. Supervisor Drossy.
Here.
Supervisor Smith.
Here.
Supervisor Dickinson.
Here.
Supervisor Molino.
Here.
Supervisor Stroud.
Here.
Supervisor Wild. Supervisor McGowan.
Here.
Supervisor Beatty.
Here.
Supervisor Thomas.
Here.
Supervisor Runyon. Here. Chairman Garrity. Quorum is established.
Thank you. We have privilege of the floor and public comment. We, as you know, we have one here before the meeting, the business, and one after. Is there anybody that would like to speak at this point in time? Good. You can go later if you want, Travis. Yep. Okay. If there's no others for privilege of the floor, public comment at this time, we will have the reading of resolutions. Clerk?
The only resolution to be considered is Resolution 97 of 2023, which was initially considered at the February 17th, 2023 board meeting and tabled until the March 17th board meeting. A motion is needed to bring Resolution 97 of 2023 back to the floor for consideration today.
Thank you. I will ask for a motion to bring the resolution off the table and onto the floor. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to make a motion to bring that off of the floor and bring it to the discussion.
Okay, and is there a second? Yeah, Supervisor McGowan on the second. Open the floor to discussion. And
Then you have to
Well,
vote,
actually-
you have to vote on the motion.
vote on the motion to bring it to off the table
Off the table.
and back onto the floor. All those in, shall we do a roll?
You can do a roll call, yes.
Let's do a roll call.
Supervisor Bruno,
Yes.
Supervisor Driscoll,
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier. Yes. Supervisor Drossy,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Dickinson,
Yes.
Supervisor Merlino,
Yes.
Supervisor Stroud,
Yes.
Supervisor McGowan,
Yes.
Supervisor Beatty,
Yes.
Supervisor Thomas,
Yes.
Supervisor Runyon. Yes. Supervisor Conover.
Yeah.
Supervisor Leggett,
Yes.
Supervisor Diamond,
Yes.
Supervisor McDevitt,
Yes.
Supervisor Bramer. No. And that passes.
Thank you. Thank you, clerk. Okay. Now that we have a resolution untabled, it's on the floor. Do we need a resolution to, a motion to consider resolution number 97, 2023? Supervisor Stroud, Supervisor Runyon on a second. Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call. Oh, discussion. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you very much. I know that the committee Human Services discussed this since the last time we had the board meeting about it, when we shared information. And I know that there were some materials sent to us from the prospective appointee. Nevertheless, without getting into any details in public, I am going to respectfully disagree with this appointment. I have concerns and I will be a no vote today.
Any further discussion? Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, one of the things I asked on at the last one is, there was a 5-year goal plan. And, I read it over, it was quite lengthy, but I feel comfortable with, moving forward and, appointing Mr. Commissioner Hanchett, for another 5 years. So, I will be a yes. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. We'll do a roll call.
Supervisor Bruno,
Yes.
Supervisor Driscoll,
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier.
Yes.
Supervisor Drossy,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Dickinson,
No.
Supervisor Merlino,
Yes.
Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah.
Supervisor McGowan,
Yes.
Supervisor Beatty,
No.
Supervisor Thomas,
Yes.
Supervisor Runyon. Yes. Supervisor Conover,
Yeah.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah.
Supervisor Diamond,
No.
Supervisor McDevitt,
Yes.
Supervisor Bramer.
No.
And that passes with a vote of 526 in favor, 238 against, and 238 absent.
Thank you, clerk. Okay, we have voted on resolutions. Now we open back up the privilege of the floor from public comment. There you go. Chair recognizes Travis Whitehead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leggett. I received a letter yesterday thanking me for my service and removing me from the LDC. We do not spend much time looking at the LDC accomplishments here, so let me recap them. In the last 2 years, the LDC spent over $100,000 of monies that you allocated to it and had absolutely nothing to show for it. Our major accomplishment was to write off about another $400,000 in bad loans while submitting reports to the state that we accomplished absolutely nothing. No loans, no grants, no seminars, no nothing. There was only one person on that board who expressed concern over this waste of taxpayer funds, and maybe not coincidentally, was not an elected official. Here's what the New York Authority's Budget Office says about staffing the LDC. While it is not prohibited, as a best practice, the ABO does not recommend that a majority of appointed board members have a political or employment relationship to the government for whose purpose the public authority was created. And if you look at the makeup of the other LDCs around the state, you'll find it rare and maybe non-existent to have only elected officials on the board, while it's not uncommon to have it staffed fully by members of the community. And yet a year ago, Chairman Garrity removed Dr. Judkins from that board, who would have been a great addition, and now he boots off the only remaining director without political employment. You have 5 members of the LDC sitting on your board and voting to approve funding to it and its larger brother, the EDC, of over $400,000 a year in taxes you assess on us, the taxpayers. Those 5 directors aren't saying that they are doing a bad job. Why should they? And now you're going to appoint a 6th member from your ranks to replace the only member that was not getting a paycheck from this board. There's no real oversight of the LDC, just like there was no oversight of the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board several years ago. Another board supposedly doing EDC work that turned into a massive embarrassment for your board and the resulting removal of its director, Walter Young, also collecting a paycheck from Warren County at that time. I'm happy to say that the reconstituted organization under Beth Gillies is doing a fabulous job. And I am suggesting to you that the same introspection needs to be done regarding the work of the LDC and the EDC. And you should also add the IDA to that mix of quasi-governmental agencies that have lost their way as it comes to providing a return on taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. Any other privilege of floor, public comment? Public? No other public. Supervisors, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Mr. Whitehead brings up some great points. I do sit on the LDC, and I'm not knocking the LDC, but I do believe that this organization, maybe it's time to shut it down and pass it on to the Lake George, Lake Champlain
Regional Plan Board.
Regional. Yeah, whatever it is, you all know, sorry, I'm trying to think of ahead of myself here. You know, it's not that I am not happy, but the way I look at it, there's quite a bit of overlay here. We have the Lake George, Lake Champlain, we have the EDC, we have the IDA, we have the LDC. So, you know, if we can't keep the public, you know, some public people in these positions, and we take to I disagree with what the chairman has done by removing Mr. Whitehead. I also disagreed last year when he took off Dr. Juckett. You know, these are two people that, you know, want to volunteer and do their time, and it's oversight. You know, can we be outspoken sometimes? You know, I've been told that I have done that a few times, and maybe more than once. But if this is the case, and this is the direction we want to go, I will be asking today to be removed from the LDC and the governance committee. Because I feel this is a wrong action, and I really don't want to be part of it if this is the way direction that the board wants to go. So I guess I'm putting in my formal resignation to step away from the LDC. And I would like to, if possible, turn my position over to Mr. Whitehead, like I wanted to do it last time with Dr. Junkins. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's just recap what we have here. We have the LDC, which the county funds to the tune of 100,000 in the last 2 years. Now they want 60,000 more this coming year. New York State says best practices are have private sector volunteers be the majority of the board. So we had two. We had two. We had Dr. David Juckins, a highly respected cardiologist from Warren County. He's on for 5 days before Chairman Garrity kicks him off. And who's he put on? Another private sector? No. Let's put another elected official on. Again, against what New York State says is best practices. So now we're left with one private sector LDC member. The only one who questions some of the practices by the LDC, the fact that we've done nothing with the funds from the LDC, the LDC's done nothing with the funds we've given them. And so what does Chairman Gary do? Let's kick off that private sector guy too, because he asked too many questions. So now let's do our math lesson. Let's see here. He's the last private sector volunteer. And again, the state says, we say best practices have the majority be private sector volunteers. So what's Chairman Garrity do? He kicks him off. He kicks off the last private sector volunteer. If this isn't a sham, I don't know what is. This is an embarrassment. And I wish Chairman Garrity was here today because I'd say that right to him. It's an embarrassment. And anybody who thinks it's not isn't paying attention to what's going on. So private sector volunteers, you get kicked off. We don't need your input. I want elected officials who get paychecks to determine. That's a bunch of malarkey. We all know it. Now, Dr. Juckins happened to give me a call last night. If you all recall, he came to this committee meeting and he asked the chairman directly, why are you kicking me off? You never even met me. You've never met me. Well, you know, I'll give you a reason. I'll tell you. Okay, when? Well, I don't know. When? So Chairman Garrity said within weeks. He sent him a letter. Never told him why he kicked him off. Because that was the direct question from Dr. Junkins. Why are you replacing me and kicking me off a committee that I'm volunteering for when you haven't even met me? And the letter he received just said, I have the authority to do that because I'm the chairman. Not why he was kicking him off, that he had the authority, which he does have the authority to do. But it's a disgrace. A major disgrace when we have chairmen kicking off private sector volunteers. They don't get paid a dime. And we just kick them off because the chairman obviously doesn't have a reason, but he can do it because I'm the chairman. What an abuse of power we got going on up here. What a sham. Anybody who thinks different, well, talk to me later and I'd be glad to explain it in more detail if you haven't figured it out yet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Any other comments? Supervisor Diamond? and
Thank you,
then
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bramer.
I just want to comment that I spent some time on the LDC. And I found working with Travis Whitehead that he came to work every day prepared. He asked difficult questions, but he always had the best interest of the organization in the forefront. I enjoyed the time that I spent with him, and I think he's going to be a loss to that organization as a result of this change.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitehead does come prepared always. He certainly does his homework. He does ask difficult questions that can be hard for leadership to answer. That is no reason to throw someone off of a volunteer opportunity. I think it's really important that we offer the public many opportunities for involvement in discrete issues. You know, this being a supervisor isn't for everyone, but being able to give their input and their advice as volunteers from the private sector, from, you know, retired people, it's really valuable. And to have that, to have our public members being thrown off of committees is really discouraging, and it is an embarrassment. And I want to also note that the chair is seeking to disband the ARPA committee, which also has members of the public who are on it, who have served in volunteer fashion for over a year. They have provided invaluable services to this county for free to distribute $12 million of funding. And I'm going to do my best along with my co-chair to keep the ARPA committee going as long as it's needed. We don't have that much more work to do, but for us to just simply shut the door on the committee and tell them goodbye, and that's that, without, it's just disappointing, and it's a lack of leadership. Thank you.
Any other? Supervisor McGowan, one last time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you don't mind, may I address Supervisor Bramer? I just would like to know what the balance is in that ARPA account that wants to be shut down. Is that possible, Mr. Chairman?
I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Madam,
It is about $700,000. And if you want to come to our ARPA committee meeting at 2 p.m. today, you can hear about all the remaining projects.
I'll be there. I thank you.
Thank you.
if there's no other business to come before this board at the time, accept the resolution to adjourn. Motion
I
to
have
adjourn.
an announcement.
An announcement, madam,
I do.
Yep.
Is that permissible?
you may.
Earlier this week, I thought maybe someone would report on the NISEC meetings. Some of us were there. I was there as resolutions chair, and we did pass resolutions through NISEC. One of them has to do with the foreclosure proceeding and opposing the proposal to give the excess back to the landowners. That was something that our real property director, Lexi Delory, brought to us just this past week. So we're glad to see that NISEC is advocating on that particular issue. And I brought back a bunch of materials, some about the budget. Mr. Treasurer, if you want to see any of that, otherwise I'll give the rest to the county administrator for people to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Motion to adjourn. Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Frazier. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adjourned.